He was basically selling them as like slave labor. And they were working under extraordinarily difficult conditions. Often,
I've I've seen a couple of things in surrounding areas here. One of them, I remember when I first moved to Tennessee, me and my wife went to this restaurant, and it was in this place called Pulaski, Tennessee, and we went into this restaurant, and it was, I don't know any other way to describe it other than very, very hippie-like. And it was a lot of like falafel, vegetarian, stuff like that. But that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the minute we entered, and it was before we actually moved here. We were looking for a place to live, and we had checked this town out, and this was the only restaurant still open, and we walked in, and immediately there was just a weird vibe in there. And
was it called the Yellow Deli?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the 12 Tribes. That's a cult group.
What is that?
Owns a chain of delis. It was originally a group started by a guy by the name of Gene Spriggs in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they believe that they are the chosen new Israel, and their leader is the prophet. They called him the prophet Yonek. Well, Gene Spriggs died rich. I mean, he had a yacht, he had multiple homes. I mean, he lived the good life. But his people would flip real estate for him. They would rehabilitate homes in upstate New York and around the country. And then that would add to the group's coffers. And they had a chain of restaurants called the Yellow Deli, and they also had cafes that serve what I think they call it mate, which is a South American kind of tea or coffee or something. And this would be the way that Gene Spriggs made money, because these people would work for basically nothing but room and board. So they would be living in group houses that would have designated leaders, and they would be there within this community, and they would work at the cafes for the real estate business or rehabilitating or doing whatever Spriggs wanted for nothing but room and board. No health insurance, no Social Security, nothing. And then they'd be raising children in the group. And these children would not be well treated. And they would not be schooled past the age of 13. And they would be beaten. Spriggs would have children beaten with like balloon sticks that they would dip in resin and then whip the children. One mother who hired me, her name is Lori Johnson, and she lived in upstate New York. She became involved with her husband in the 12 Tribes. He really was devoted. And she began to have doubts because she saw how hard it was on her kids. She had 2 little children. And she wanted to leave. Her husband wouldn't leave. Divorce, custody battle. Lori gets custody. Husband disappears with the 2 children. It took 9 years before the FBI found those kids. I did a Jerry Springer show.
Where were the kids?
They were hidden within the community in Florida, and no one knew where they were. And Lori had been without her children for 9 years when they recovered them. And her husband was arrested, and the FBI returned the kids, and I would work with those children. Then I think one was 14 and the other was maybe 12, thereabouts, minor kids. But they had not been with their mother for years. And that was because of this group that owned the Yellow Delis, 12 Tribes, headed by Gene Spriggs. And I would appear with Lori on a very early Jerry Springer show. And in that show, Lori would show pictures of her kids, tell her story, and leaders from 12 Tribes also appeared on the show with me. And I would then talk with them at the hotel that we were put up in. And I would say to them, why don't you guys just give Lori back her kids? And then people will think that you're not so bad, that you're not a bad cult, because you're being sensitive and caring about this mother who wants to be reunited with her children. And they would repeatedly just say to me, oh, well, we don't know where the kids are. We don't know where they are. And then they would make outrageous accusations that Lori was immoral, that she was a harlot, whatever, really totally baseless. But the point is, they would not come clean. And eventually the children were found in the community. And when I talked to the children, they most definitely knew. They told me that Gene Spriggs specifically knew where they were, and that other leaders in the group knew where they were, and that they were deliberately hidden from their mother for years.
Wow. Is that whole organization?
The organization is still going. I'm not clear as to who's really running it. I mean, it may evolve and change, but it's been a very authoritarian, very destructive group for many years. And do you know, Shawn, at one time they had contracts with Robert Redford's Sundance Catalog, Trader Joe's, and Estee Lauder to do packaging in regards to products. But when it was exposed, and I had a part in that, there were former members who told me about these sweatshops where these members of the group were working. And unbeknownst to these companies, they were being, their product was being packaged and produced through this often child labor, illegal labor. Well, that was eventually exposed, and they were raided by New York labor authorities, and those contracts were shut down. But Spriggs used to use companies like Estee Lauder, Trader Joe's, Robert Redford, Sundance Catalog to make money off of his people. He was basically selling them as like slave labor, and they were working under extraordinarily difficult conditions, often unsafe. And so they were raided. And after that, one of the leaders of the group, Eddie Weissman, who I appeared with on this Jerry Springer show, he called me on the phone and he said, Rick, you're a son of a bitch, you're so bad. You realize the money that you've cost the families in 12 tribes, and they don't have the money because of the raid, and you're responsible for that. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I said, look, Eddie, come on, give me a break. You and your wife, Jeannie, are living the good life because you're leaders. And you were working children illegally.